and welcome to this short video on modern visual analytics. And the purpose of this video is to demonstrate the power of using visual analytics to drive deeper understanding of your audit data and why Tableau is quickly becoming the tool of choice to drive this change. I'll demonstrate how building an analytics portal can bring to bear more effectiveness and efficiency within your practice. But first, let's take a look at the data that we'll be analyzing. Fairly simple data set. It's pcard transactions from the City of Toronto. It's from their open data program, so it's free for public use. But it's every transaction across a certain time period of city employees using their procurement cards to purchase goods and services for the benefit of the city. So we have a lot of interesting fields here. We've got the transaction ID, we have the date of that transaction, we have the employee ID, which I totally made up. It's not actually in the data set. We have the division of the employee. We have the merchant category. Who did they buy the product from? The name of that merchant, and then we also have, among other things, the transaction amount. And I have a really simple question of this data. I want to know, as an auditor, how many of these transactions, which, by the way, we have just shy of 120,000 transactions stored in this data set in Excel. But how many of these 120,000 transactions actually occurred on a weekend? Simple question. So let's see if we can figure this out in Microsoft Excel just out of the box. So I'm going to look at transaction date. One of the ways that we could potentially do this in Excel would be using filters on the data itself. So if we drill into 2013, we drill into January, we can get to that day level. However, I'm going to have to put this side by side with a calendar and kind of pluck out the Saturdays and Sundays. Which of these days correlates with a Saturday, Sunday? I'm not sure. I might be able to craft a calculation for this, but I'm not quite that Excel savvy and not sure how that's going to work for me. So maybe a pivot table is going to be my best choice. Let's try that. Pivot table, it's going to select my data range. I'm going to select OK. And then, well, I can actually see that I'm right back kind of where I started, where I don't know how to get down to that date level without knowing or having a calendar to kind of compare those days and right back where I started. So obviously this is going to be a little bit frustrating for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Tableau. I'm actually going to go to my website here, Evolve. Evolve is simply a fictitious audit company. So it's an example. This is an example of an audit portal, the integration between Tableau Server, Tableau APIs, and my own website technology, whatever that may be. So it features common use cases like single sign-on for trusted authentication, row-level security. So I only see what I'm supposed to see given permissions from Tableau Server, as well as web editing or web authoring. So I'm going to have the ability to actually view content that I have permission to see and add to it. So why don't I log in here? So I'm going to log into the self-service analytics tab. Single sign-on took over. It said, is John Duggar who he says he is, and does he have permission to see content in Tableau Server? The answer was yes. So the handshake took place, and the REST API was invoked, and the REST API brought over some thumbnail images of some dashboards that I have access to on Tableau Server. So far, I haven't seen anything Tableau. This is all my website, and the Tableau software integrates seamlessly beside what you have today, and only integrates where necessary, right alongside with whatever you have. So what I want to do is check out the City of Toronto pcard analysis, and one of my colleagues had posted this to get permission to see it, but I've got some additional questions of that data. One of the questions was, how many of the transactions occurred on a weekend? Clearly, this dashboard is answering certain questions like, total spend on our pcards, the date range of the spend, the monthly spend, and we can get down to the division, and we can see the division spend by month, and then that weekly division spend, and at the bottom we have account and merchant spend information as well. And this is all great and good, but it doesn't really help me understand how many transactions I had on the weekend. So what I'm going to do is leveraging my portal. I'm going to edit this viz. And by the way, this is Tableau Server embedded in a website, right? And we control the look and the feel of it using Tableau's APIs, which are the REST API and the JavaScript API in this case. We also have a couple of other APIs that we're not leveraging for this particular demo. But in this case, that's why it kind of looks and feels a bit like Tableau, but at the same time, it's not, right? These buttons on the left, these actions were created using JavaScript API. And we could certainly add on to these as we see fit, as use cases develop and our users give me feedback. Like, for example, hey, I want the ability to lasso certain marks on a scatter plot and write those back out to a database table so that I can research them later. We could add that functionality here in our portal and expose an action to our users using the JavaScript API. But for now, to answer my question, the number of transactions that occurred over a weekend, I'm going to edit this viz. And this is going to open up a new iframe in my portal, and I'm in edit viz mode. So I'm going to go beyond the dashboard, and I'm going to connect to this data source, which is the pcard transaction details city of Toronto, and I'm just going to go about answering my question. So how many transactions did we have occurring over the weekend? Which is, I'm going to call Saturdays and Sundays. Well, we have 118,000 total transactions. Okay, so that's part of the answer, but what I really want to know is how many are on the weekend. So very quickly, I'm going to filter down to the weekday, and I'm going to select Sunday and Saturday only. And now I can see I have 5,144 transactions that occurred on the weekend. I want to see all of those transactions. So I'm going to bring my transaction IDs up to my column shelf. Maybe I'll flip that view around, sort it. There we go. Here's all of our transactions that occurred on a weekend. By the way, we're showing everything, all records, okay? All records on the weekend where there's no limitations on the data that is exposed to you in Tableau. If you want to see 1 million transactions, then you know what? Tableau is going to draw you a picture with 1 million transactions. There's no guessing, there's no sampling here. Okay, so now I know how many transactions occurred on the weekend. We have around 5,000, but now I've got an additional question. How many of these transactions occurred on a holiday? This is interesting. So let's drop holiday onto color, and I can see that yeah, you know, I've got some interesting transactions that occurred on the holiday. I have a New Year's transaction here, another New Year's transaction, New Year's, and another New Year's. I wonder if that's the same employee. Let's drop employee ID on detail. We're not changing the visualization at all, but now I've got a little extra information hidden in the tooltip I can kind of expose here. So this is employee 191. 0004, 80004, and 80. So these two were actually the same person, but these were not. Okay, let's aggregate this transaction ID. Let's just change that, right? I want to see the transaction amount. I don't really want to see the count of transactions. I want to see the actual amount. So very quickly, I can see that. I'll tell you what, let's just exclude the nulls on the holiday because I'm only focused on the holiday weekend transactions. Now I've got what I'm looking for here. I've got a handful of transactions that occurred on the weekend and occurred on a holiday. In this particular case, I have employee ID F80004 who purchased something on New Year's Day for $11,000, and that same employee purchased something else on the same day for $9,400. We had $20,000 there for this particular employee. Well, I wonder, you know, who was the merchant that they purchased this transaction from? Town and Suites. Okay. Well, what was the purpose of that transaction? Let's drag that in there, and let's check that out. A hotel stay for tenants at this address, and then the same for that purpose. Let's look at this next one. $435 transaction for Facebook ads, online ads, and food for Canada Day staff. these may be legitimate transactions, but I think they do warrant some follow through. Maybe even put these, particularly maybe this employee, maybe put them on a watch list and make sure that nothing nefarious is happening here, and that's what I will do. So I can save this view. I'm going to select File, Save As, and I'm going to call this Weekend Holiday Trans, and I'm just going to put pcard in there so my colleagues will know what I'm talking about here. And I'm going to select Save. Now in my portal, I have a new dashboard. So if I go back to my workbooks, I have a new dashboard right here, Weekend Holiday Transactions. I can view this. I can send a link to this to my colleagues who have access to this particular dashboard. And I can share this view with them. I say, hey, look, this is what I found, quick ad hoc data discovery. I found that we have a handful of transactions that occurred on the weekend and a holiday. Let's take this a step further. Please add these individuals. We've got the employee ID. Add them to a watch list, and let's just monitor these for a few months, and let's see what we come up with. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of leveraging a tool like Tableau, a quick, nimble, ad hoc data discovery tool that, yeah, of course, we could build beautiful dashboards. Anybody can do that, but we can actually allow a business user or an analyst, somebody who doesn't know how to code, they don't know SQL or things like this, but just given that we can expose data sources and dashboards to these people and give them a tool that'll allow them to ask questions and get answers with that data quickly, it is so very powerful. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration. I enjoyed presenting it, so thank you very much for watching, and take care.